Welcome to our very first ACIS celebration for our cohort 5. We hadn't done this type of celebration before, so you are the first. So congratulations. Yeah, excellent. All right, so we've got a fun agenda for you. I think it's fun. I'm going to say a few words, and then I've got Dr. Terry Platchek's going to share some words, and then we have two of your own presenters coming up, and they're going to talk about their experience in ACIS, which should be really interesting. I think you'll really like it. And then following that, Dr. Paul Maggio is going to say some closing remarks for us, and then I will finish at the very end, and we will all get a chance to have lunch together and have a bit of time celebrating all of you. All right, sound good? Okay, so let's go ahead and let me share a few words that I had prepared. So good morning, everybody. It's my great honor and privilege to welcome you all today as we celebrate and warmly congratulate each of you for completing the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement's Advanced Course in Improvement Science. First, let me extend heartfelt congratulations to each of you. Your presence here today is a testament to your dedication, passion, and unwavering commitment to excellence in healthcare improvement. You have chosen a path that is not only intellectually rigorous, but also deeply impactful, one that will directly enhance patient care, improve health outcomes, and transform healthcare systems for the better. Improvement science is about more than just theory. As you all know, it's about action, it's about collaboration and continuous learning. It's about asking the right questions, challenging assumptions, and relentlessly pursuing better ways to deliver care. So now, as members of this distinguished cohort, you embody these principles. Your diverse backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives will enrich our community and drive innovation forward. At Stanford Medicine, we believe deeply in the power of interdisciplinary collaboration and evidence-based practice. We are confident that the skills and insights you gained in this program will empower you to lead meaningful change here and in healthcare organizations around the globe. As you embark on this exciting journey, remember that improvement science is not just about tools and methodologies. It is fundamentally about people. It's about compassion, empathy, and the relentless pursuit of better outcomes for patients, families, and communities. Your work will have lasting impacts, and we are proud to support you in every step of the way. I want to be the first to welcome you, all of you, into the esteemed alumni community of Stanford Course in Improvement Science, a community dedicated to making healthcare safer, more effective, and more equitable for all. So let's go change the world, everybody. Now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Terry Platchek, our Executive Director of the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me here, Ryan. I've been thinking about what my role is as the Executive Director of the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement. The first role, just in case anyone wants to know, is figuring out how we get the PTA accounts set up in the school's cost structure. But once we get beyond that, I think that I was just telling Neeraj that I think my primary role is that of a cheerleader. And I asked myself, like, why I was willing to, take that job. I had enough other jobs. And I really think the answer resolves to days like today and what you guys have been doing over the past 9 months. I came in 2005 when I was an intern at the University of Michigan. I did med peds and I was in my 4th month of internship. So I'd done 3 months of pediatrics, and then I did a month of internal medicine. And my rotation as an intern was out in a community ICU. It was a 10-bed ICU in a hospital sort of in between Ann Arbor and Detroit. And I was the doctor on at night in my 1st month of internal medicine, my 4th month of internship. in an ICU with my senior resident down a floor away in the cardiovascular ICU. Paul's putting his head in his hands because he's probably not only heard this story, but he remembers the hospital. For a brief time, Paul and I were at Michigan together. A patient, came in that night. She was 68. She had mild congestive heart failure, and she'd been coming in with diarrhea, and was getting admitted to the ICU because of the heart failure and because they were afraid she was a little bit too dehydrated, but they wanted to gingerly fluid resuscitate her because they were worried about her heart failure. So I took care of her, and I was having conversations with her. It seemed like things were going okay, and their nurses were having a hard time getting access. So it was my turn to put in a central line. I'd seen it done once. So I called my senior downstairs, and he said, "Okay, we'll get everything set up, and get the patient draped and all these things. I'll come upstairs when we're doing it." Did that, and we pulled the an hour and 10 minutes later for something that should have taken 15 minutes. Pulled the covers off, and she was on the verge of death. We hadn't been monitoring her, I think, nearly as well as we should have been. The cuff wasn't cycling right, but she was, her blood pressure was like 60 over palp, and we coded her, and she died. That's like indelibly in my mind. I still remember it to this day. And, it turns out she had C. diff. They had just published the fact that C. diff became more virulent, and was producing, I don't remember what the number is, 1,000 times more toxin or something like that. Hayden will know better than I will, but you didn't die of C. diff before. And then all of a sudden there was this new strain of it, and you were dying from it. She ended up actually growing it in her blood. And that was something that we hadn't seen much of. And she was being treated wrong, not just by me. The ED missed a diagnosis when I called the case into my attending, missed the diagnosis. My attending didn't ask me to check her cap refill. Keystone was happening across the state of Michigan at the time, which was, intensive sepsis resuscitation that many of the people in this room know much more about than I do. But the goal was to maintain an SVO2 of 70%. And I'm sure if we had that central line in, we would have seen her SVO2 was much lower than that. And I was, this is my third week in internal medicine, and people are telling me that this stuff just happens. And was this notion of I'm just going to continue on through the night. There's 9 other patients to take care of. There's actually another patient that's getting admitted to that bed. You take a moment, we'll clean the room, and then you'll be ready to do that. And the next day I left, and I was like, I'm going to quit. And it was only because I met a person named Jack Billy that I'm standing here in front of you. And what he taught me about was improvement in healthcare. And he handed me To Err is Human, and Crossing the Quality Chasm. And at that point, so many different aspects of my life, the advocacy I'd been doing, the fact that I was a government major, all these things came into specific relief. And I realized what it was that I wanted to do was try to make healthcare work in such a way that the next time a patient was hurt, it would be harder to do than it was when I was taking care of a patient. And the reason why I remain hopeful that we are continuing along that path is because of the people in this room. We know from the data, you can just look at on the pediatric side solutions for patient safety, or if you look on the adult side, you can look at any one of the various quality measures. We're taking care of sicker and sicker patients, and we're doing better taking care of them, right? And it goes everything from antibiotic stewardship to, the way that we're having fidelity in an OR, the way we're able to bring new therapeutics online. We're doing remarkable work, so much so that we're even thinking about things like safety 2 from safety 1. We're talking about complex adaptive systems because complicated systems don't fully explain the situations that we're dealing with in healthcare. The reason why we're able to do this is because of us in this room. And my firm and fundamental belief that I will take to the end of my career is that people that are responsible for delivering healthcare, be it an administrator, be it a clinician, they have to care deeply about improvement. Not everyone, but there has to be the people that are going to be in the vanguard. And the people that are taking this course are in the vanguard. I know I'm not alone in my journey. I know that there's brilliant people that not only are with me, but that are going to run ahead and take us to the next level. So it's not like a platitude when I come and I say that this is the reason like why I took over the role at the center and why it is that I do my job. It is my career. This is the you guys being willing to take so much time to learn this, to be part of the community, to push us forward. This is the reason why I can still be a doctor, a profession that I love, is because I know that even though people are going to get hurt, we're going to do all we can to make it better for them, and we are. So I have a deep and profound appreciation for all of you. Thank you for doing this. This was not a modest amount of effort. This was a major amount of effort that you guys have put in. Congratulations. And I just can't wait to see what everyone's able to accomplish going forward as you all take leadership positions to higher levels. I hope here at Stanford, but even if you do leave Stanford in service to patients more broadly. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Outstanding. Okay, now I'd like to introduce one of our students from this course. Bill Law is Director of Quality Analytics here at Stanford Medicine Healthcare. And she is going to share with us her project. And then she will also have some time for Q&A if you'd like. Okay, I've got microphones that I'm going to be passing around if you have questions. So, oh, here you go. Make sure this works. Yep. There.
Thank you, Ryan. It's really nice that so many of you were able to come. I love that this is a nice, cozy group, and I'm happy to share about the project that I was working on as I was part of ACIS and was able to apply a lot of what I learned through ACIS to this work. The title of my project is Health Equity Measurement and Data Governance Framework. This is our small and mighty team. I am partnering with Jean Chantra, who is the Director of Analytics and Clinical Effectiveness at Children's. And we are working with our two new Chief Health Equity Officers, Dr. Nazleen Barmal at SHC and Dr. Ndidi Unaka at SMCH. And we could not have done any of this without Sophia Park, who's a senior program project coordinator on my team and is just fantastic at what she does and helped keep all of this together. So our goal is to create a comprehensive framework for understanding and advancing health equity through the lens of data stratification and analysis, by embedding an equity lens into the QI frameworks that already exist. So you'll notice like a lot of the SMART goals are around what we were trying to do here. So that is, creation of a comprehensive framework, embedding data, and using a data lens. We talked a lot about that during our course, and then embedding that work into QI efforts that are already underway. So we heard so much about, improvement should be part of everything we do. And so our goal here is to make it so that the framework can be applied to our everyday activities and, bring forth the importance of looking at everything with an equitable lens. So a quick summary of the background and foundation for this work. So Neeraj, as he very well knows, kicked off the Health Equity Council here in March of 2022. And there has been a lot of work to embed equity into our strategic priorities. We have our integrated strategic plan, our ops plans, and then of course, just the fact that we have two new Chief Health Equity Officers is, a testament to our commitment. And then we have been doing a lot of work in the background from a data perspective. So We Ask Because We Care is an initiative geared towards, data collection. We want to know more about our patients to be able to help them and to both identify and address disparities. We have created reports and dashboards that kind of take us towards that. We started looking at internal disparities, and then we are now partnering with patient experience as well to understand, how do we tie all of this together. And there are a few ways in which we can benchmark. The benchmarking isn't really solid right now, since this is an area that's fairly new. But there are some ways for us to assess how we are performing compared to others. So with this background in mind, we set off to develop the framework. And when we were just getting started, anecdotally, we had heard from a lot of people, both, across the enterprise, that there was a need to align all of the stakeholders that are doing this work. There is a lot of work that's going on that has the flavor of equity, or that is actually intended to reduce disparities, but there is maybe not enough of a shared understanding and alignment. We also realized that people are looking for ways to standardize the identification, analysis, and visualization of health disparities. We were asked for clear communication and a shared common vocabulary in talking about this work. And then folks were interested in enabling targeted interventions and tracking progress over time. So what we set out to do, we interviewed a lot of different groups. As you will see, these are across the enterprise, and we also worked with some external partners like our San Mateo and Santa Clara County health plans and health departments to really understand, would this be helpful? What would be helpful? And there were some clear themes that emerged from that. So there is definitely a need to align, like I said at the beginning, embed data and stratification as part of QI efforts. This really came out of the stakeholder interviews that, it needs to be part of everything we do. And then translate insights into actions. There is a lot of research around health equity. We know that this is something we need to work on. How do we translate what we find out into actions so that we can, actually start helping patients and populations? There was also a clear ask for consistency and accuracy in data collections and integration across systems. So our systems can vary in how we talk about, let's say, social demographics. How do we talk about language? So how do we bring some consistency into that? How do we make sure we are all saying the same thing? There was an ask for benchmarking. These are all people who are coming with a QI mindset. And so that's great. We are working on that, and I'm sure we will hear more as the industry matures. And then clarity and alignment in the measurement approach. There was also a clear ask for more collaboration. We want to be able to talk to each other. We want to learn from each other. So these are all, great things. And that's what led us to sort of, creating what we have. So in a nutshell, the measurement framework is a guideline document. And it has 3 sections right now: the data collection, stratification and analysis, and visualization and interpretation. And while it is a guideline document, it is not meant to be comprehensive, nor is it meant to be prescriptive. These are guidelines that someone can take and align with their context. What is meaningful for their work. So we have gone into principles around these high-level concepts with a focus on health equity. The reason the second 2 have a box around them is because those are the ones that are more mature and developed, and we are still working on this with a projected completion date for end of July. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a very strong support from a project program coordination perspective. So we moved the guideline document into an interactive SharePoint where you can go and look for information as you need it. We have checklists for each of the sections. So this goes back to this question of is this going to be actionable? How can I use this in my day-to-day work? So you can go through a checklist. You do not need to read a 25-page document. And then we are also supporting this information with use cases, examples, and contacts of people who have done this similar kind of work or have interests in it across the enterprise. So some next steps, things we want to do, of course, develop the data collection section, finish this first pass of these guidelines, socialize it across different QI programs, pilot it in some programs where we will maybe serve as consultants, but then there are some teams that are interested in adopting it and then giving us feedback as to like, how did that work for you? And then actually applying it to a lot of outcome measures. That's our operational plan goal for SHC, SMP, and Tri-Valley for FY26. And using the outcomes from this framework to really identify what those health equity focus areas could be for us. You know, where can we be most effective? And building data governance around this. So again, having some standardized definitions, having some consistency. Our key learnings, you know, data and analytics can be leveraged to highlight inequities, and we can use the insights generated from stratified data to drive equitable care in our delivery system. And embedding health equity in QI processes is really the way to go to make sure we are aligned with our operational and strategic priorities. So with that, I will take any questions. Oh, thank you.
Well, that was fantastic. Just a quick question around the whole course, and you're doing amazing work. Is there something that you can point to, or maybe a moment along the way through the ACIS coursework that gave you an aha moment into how it's powering the work that you're doing now?
Oh my gosh, so many. I think a few really key ones were about the 4 types of problems. That was a really insightful discussion for me, where I was like, oh, you know, not everything can be bucketed into the same type of problem, and everything probably needs, you know, different ways to intervene. This probably is a small concept, but it was important to me, the relationship mapping, because so much of this work was about like meeting new people, sharing, you know, what it is that we're trying to do, getting their buy-in. And so tailoring conversations to different kinds of stakeholders, it really helped me kind of think of it differently. Also about data, honestly, that data week was very helpful. Like just to take a step back and go back to like, what are the different ways in which we think about data and improvement, and how can we apply that? Sometimes it feels like it's ingrained in us, but at other times we miss out on like obvious things that, you know, we should have been thinking about. I would say those are some things that's a great question. Thank you.
So Richard, you just took the question right out. I mean, I feel like I planted you there. I've actually seen this firsthand in this group, and the application of some of the data visualization techniques, the statistical process control, they're really practicing it. So you've taken that and applied it.
Definitely.
So I've definitely seen it firsthand. So it's excellent. Really well done.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Yes. Yeah, sure.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I have a comment, more of an applaud and a thank you, because I'm excited for your work selfishly. Just met with Dr. Unaka, and I've had many conversations with you about our centering groups and how we want to be able to make it more equitable, and just launched our Spanish speaking and Latina groups. But talking about how to develop the framework up for data visualization, and where are we beginning and where are we growing to make sure it is actually equitable. So please continue to discuss and share.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
And I will say selfishly that the reason I said, as soon as Ryan sent that email, who would like to, I was like, me, because this is a great way to, again, you know, spread the word. This work is new. There is a lot of enthusiasm, and we want to capture that. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So Jen and I were talking about this yesterday, and I know we had a retreat yesterday at the quality department. And you guys know I work on PSIs, patient safety indicators, and we were looking, and we do have that data in the quality dashboard. We just don't use it. And I feel like this is something that we can also take into now, that as we look deeper into those cases and actually trend those health equity, maybe because we're like, we don't even look at that. We should be looking at that. And maybe we're missing something, because, you know, sometimes when you're stuck, and you just don't know, maybe that is something that we should be looking at.
Absolutely.
And we haven't been looking at.
Absolutely 100% true. And the point you brought up, which was again one of the aha moments that came out of ACIS, was how are we measuring disparities over time? We're not. I doubt that there is much of that going on anywhere, to be honest. Because the measures that we are using to say whether or not a disparity exists is likely not the measures that we need to know whether there is an improvement. So much more discussion needs to happen around truly making this a QI-centric effort as opposed to academic or research focused. So thank you for that, Amy.
Excellent. All right, let's give her.
Sorry.
Yes. Go
So
ahead.
I wrote something. I started writing something in prose and about my experience in ACIS. And then I got help from an advanced technical platform that shall remain unnamed in making this a little more engaging. So I hope you, indulge me for a couple of minutes. This is only going to take a couple of minutes. All right, so these are my reflections, and it's a poetic tribute to Cohort 5. So to Lisa, Ryan, Ame, Selena, and team, your planning was sharp and supreme. From systems to stats to where's that in box chats, you ran ACIS like a dream. Team C is a gift I hold dear. Colleen, James, Karen, and Isaac, cheers. Through laughter and charts and big thinking hearts, you made every breakout sincere. In restrooms, I now pause and stand, reflecting on germs and my hands. Hand hygiene's the way, it's here to stay. Deming might call that a planned demand. QI macros, a curious spell. Do we use them? Only time will tell. With histograms bright and p-charts in sight, we hope to use them quite well. From John Shook, we learned about role, behavior, and mindset make whole. Art Smalley declared 4 problems are shared, and each type plays a key control. Deming said systems are key. Human error, just 6 out of 100, you see? Theory evolves, no quick absolves. Daily management helps us agree. I discovered I was a lone deer, then spotted a dove hovering near. With lions and foxes and theory-filled boxes, I saw my courage and cunning appear. Leadership is more than commands. It's tasks and visions and hands. But Neeraj taught us clear, build relationships, dear. That's 70% of your brand. We asked questions, 4 types, who knew? From humble to coaching in view. Effective and kind, they open the mind and maybe bright insights anew. We aim to be multipliers, never diminish. We strive for good friction to take us to a finish. And we learn to subtract, map relationships' impact, and let human-centeredness flourish. Now I walk with a spark in my stride, with Cohort 5 right by my side. I'm grateful I grew, still learning, still true, with humility, joy, and pride. Thank you.
So good. Thank you so much. I'd hate to follow that one, Richard. Yeah, really. Wow, that was really nice. I hope you have a really nice poem that you're going to be sharing with us. Oh, that was wonderful. So good. So for those of you who aren't familiar with ACIS, possibly, we do have every participant do a more of a systems level project. So you notice that her project was not your traditional, here's a particular small problem and then looking at drilling down to that, but it's more across the system, developing a program of sorts. So thank you very much. That was wonderful. I am very excited to see what comes out of that. And I do love the approach of looking at, from a data lens, the stratification, the stuff that we learned in the data week with Lloyd Provost. So I'm really, really excited to see that. Now I would like to introduce you to our next speaker, Richard Ellis, who's project manager of health equity research here at Stanford Medicine Healthcare. Richard. I think I messed up your last name. Sorry about that. All right.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. I'm really grateful to be standing here after 100 hours sitting on that side, getting 15 minutes up here is fantastic. And I would hate to be the guy who has to follow Bill Law, but here we are. So today we're going to be talking about designing education to scale, and a quick introduction about me to put that within context. My name is Rich Ellis. I am a PMP, an MPAC. I'm about to graduate with my MPA, and I tell you how hard that was to put the C there and not just say that I've finished, but I've got one more course to go before I finish up my graduate studies in public administration. I'm a project manager at the Center for Education Research and Professional Development Center. That is now CERP. It is formerly CEPD. They just absorbed ORPCS, the research side. I've been here since 2023, started at SRI in Menlo Park, and currently working on our magnet designation, the nursing satisfaction survey. So if you have a nursing background, you'll be receiving that in a couple of weeks. I work on operationalizing the strategic plan for CERP as it cascades down from leadership level, and then manage performance improvement in the form of dashboard and data collection for our combined organization. You'll see there my headshot, but more importantly, my Halloween costume this year. I'm from Philadelphia, and that is the Philadelphia Flyers mascot, who is affectionately known as Gritty. And you can't talk bad about him, but I can. And you come from Philly, we defend our own, but he is a horrifying creature that bears this name. And it inspired me to talk a little bit about digging in to the details to solve a larger problem. So a couple of quotes that stuck with me. Obviously, the overarching one from this course is every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it does. And more importantly, for this particular instance, we have a bad system will beat a good person every time. And I want you to hold that second part with you, because when we talk about how systems impact individuals and our teammates, this is about preserving our team to create a better result in the end. So I'm going to kick this off by talking about something that we all love here at Stanford, affectionately, we'll never complain about it, and that is HealthStream. So this is a case of a high-performing system, and the Center for Education Research and Professional Development basically authors training efforts across SHC and delivers the content that you see when you go and take that training, particularly at the nursing level. 7,000 employees are touched by the assignments that are made by CERP, largely nursing, all the way from bedside and clinical staff to non-clinical. There are 300 different assignments made personally each year to different members and student groups of PCS, IP, ambulatory, and the ED. And in those student groups, there are 200, maybe a little more, unique groups that make up the way that we assign HealthStream courses. So you see on the side of the screen there, we're at 99.9% accuracy. The system is performing the way that it should to deliver the results that it does. So you're thinking, why would I be here talking about something that is right almost every time that it exists? And that's because we go back to the how. And something that ACIS has taught me is this is not the advanced course in improving your results. This is about the improvement science and everything that those results touch. And that includes and is always led by our people here at Stanford. So our problem starts here. And I'm glad this is on this giant screen, because the longer that you look at it, the more complicated, frustrated, and challenging it is to understand what's happening here. So a brief overview. What you're seeing here is a process, barely a system, that is led by a system administrator to make HealthStream assignments to different members of our organization. So 7,000 employees are affected by the way that this works. You have your student groups, you have your course information, you have your information about the people you're making assignments to on one side of this equation, and on the other, you have a completely different system in HealthStream. And as I mentioned, the longer you look at it, the more confusing it gets. You have student groups that exist as a group of 7 smart sheets. You have those student groups present on 7 more smart sheets in a different category. And then you have individual group smart sheets that have nothing to do with the other 2 groups, but ultimately inform the other side of the system. So if you keep looking at it, there's a problem here. There's influence there, there's data connection here. And if I had to ask you where all this burden fell, where would you say? Is there one point in this system that creates a problem or a bottleneck? Yeah, the administrator. So thinking about our people and how we work on the system, we want to make sure that the administrator has support, is able to consistently operate, and is doing things in the most efficient way possible to uphold that result. So we talked about doing an analysis and going down and seeing how the work is being done, we identified different threats to this system in the way that we are assigning courses. Number one, the inefficient starting point. I mentioned student groups. Student groups drive everything. They contain the course information. They contain where they're going to be assigned, who is part of those groups. But we don't really have record of who makes up a student group and how it's impacting the individual here at Stanford. Student groups are used to bridge Smartsheets and HealthStream due to commonality, but it doubled management time to make updates on both sides of the system. System incompatibility. Smartsheet records track the data and provided guidelines, but they use different taxonomy from what's happening at one side of the system and the other, which makes it incompatible for anyone other than someone who's done it before. Employee burnout. To bridge all of these issues, scaffolded solutions for ad hoc requests and changes become too challenging for one individual to manage and too complex to transition. So I want to pause there, is that someone is sitting in a seat that they can no longer manage because of the challenges that the complexity of our organization has brought, but can't explain to anyone else how to operate it. It's an awful feeling and something that's going to lead to a lot of burnout, a lot of self-doubt, and eventually errors in the system. And then lastly, because of that, as I mentioned, the complex system is known by a single SHC employee, and it risks, if that person, that individual who touches 7,000 assignments, misses any time, there's no way to transition this over. So we went to understanding the root cause here. And I asked them in the process development, if we handle this process off to a teammate, what would they need to know to be successful? So first, we looked at the student groups. And this is where it gets a little bit challenging. I'll explain that on the next slide. They serve as a key point of interaction. They should be reliable, consistent, clear, and easy to manage. Digging into who makes up those student groups and employee level analysis. Student groups are composed of our end users here. This is user-centric design, SHC employees who need training. How can we capture the individual data correctly? And then changing the way that we think about the entire process and into a system that has an end-to-end flow. Moving the onus from student groups, informing everything, to a data mart view where a new user could come in, answer a couple of questions around who's looking for the training, and then proceed through the data mart to pick up everything they need. So getting a little gritty, using my Philadelphia roots and my giant mascot, we dug into this effort over the course of 3 months and started with 3 phases: technical improvements, directional system flow, and the alignment of system taxonomy. First, we have the technical improvements, and this was the heaviest lift. This work actually came to Ryan before he knew that I was a part of it, because the leader of this system, that system admin, reached out for a little bit of guidance and help. The job information database was created to align our information with HealthStream, and this was the work that was the roll up your sleeves and gritty work. We ended up with a manually inputted 38,000 rows of data to carve away, made up of every possible job title, job function, job category, and every cost center which could possibly exist. So we started by creating all the things that could be and working our way down to who actually composes the student groups, which is really less than 10,000 of those rows. But we couldn't get there without building the entire block of marble first. Second, I mentioned the directional flow. If you're being able to transition this off to someone else, it's important to give them a starting point. What information do you need? Where are you going next? And how do you finish? And then the alignment of system taxonomy, working with HealthStream to make sure that our information that we're collecting is easily transmitted to the other side to make assignments. So we started at that big confusing map, and we ended up with a new process flow that is easy to hand off to someone else who is outside of the job function as it exists now. So you have your onboarding training request is initiated. The admin obtains the relevant taxonomy and job information, goes to database 1, which is our job information database, to obtain the student group information. From there, they go to a single list of courses that is defined by their student group. They take that via login and go right to HealthStream. It's very simple, very logical, but it's an untangling of a process that has been 2 or 3 years in the making. And as it looks next to how it used to, if I'm day 1 on the job, the person has just left, I want the information on the right and not the left. So in closing, I just wanted to share a little bit of our assessment and next steps we have here. So what we've accomplished is the creation of a sustainable system in place of an informal individual-led process. Our testing returns have yielded a 100% course assignment success rate within our pilots. The target for this full rollout is October in the large wave of assignments for new employees. We've introduced a job function of managing the system from the external components, the inputs, the outputs, the new job functions, the new courses, while still preserving the integrity of the way the system works internally in the process. And then the end-to-end taxonomy is fully aligned to seamlessly integrate information so that we can continue to move forward in a way that is straight, without scaffolding, and can be easily transitioned. So a couple of final thoughts. Our big aha moment and the big laughter in the room. During our first interaction, I did a full overview of the process, understood it like I was a consultant coming into a new organization. The individual's name who works on this is Andy Hagum, and she is a wonderful, hardworking person doing 3 to 4 people's resources work. She's doing a ton of work, and we're trying to support her. And I said, Andy, after learning everything, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is you are the best part of the system. The bad news is you are the best part of the system. Which sort of led to this moment of change. So for us to move forward, we're looking to deploy this in October and make it more sustainable. I work for Griselle, and her personal philosophy is we should be 3 deep at every position. And this enables us to be able to take this important function, something that Stanford should do well as a flagship leading organization across the board, is assign training and make sure that everyone is educated. We need to do this well. And now we're positioned well to do that in October. And my last thought is just such an immense gratitude toward our SMCI team, toward my personal team, and to our cohort, because while I don't have it in poetic form, the gratitude is certainly still there. And I will share in a moment of vulnerability that at the beginning of the program, I looked at all of the results because that's where we focused, was a lot of clinically heavy results. And I'm non-clinical. And I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, thinking about how can I use this to make a difference? And as I went through this course, I was able to feel as though the way we were taught to think from a systems view enabled me to go upstream and realize patient impact through the work that's being done at my local level. So not only have I been empowered to utilize the new knowledge, but it's changed the way that I see my own job function, my role here at Stanford. So thank you.
Excellent. So Richard, that was so powerful. I loved the picture you gave, both of the compelling problem. You had me sold, right? And then also the systems thinking that you walked us through it was beautiful. I mean, so all of you, that's one of the big things in this course is the concept of system thinking, systemness, and the projects should do that. And this was an excellent example of that. And you're right, I didn't know you were part of that project when I was consulting, and then found out later that you were, and I was relieved because it's a monster of a project. So well done.
Thank
Excellent. Any quick questions that anyone has for Richard?
I'm curious. This was awesome, by the way. And oh my gosh, who knew what was behind HealthStream? So my question is around the system administrator role. So you, in one of your last bullet points, it said, regardless of the system administrator. I'm curious how that role might change. And yeah, like we went from a very matrix process to a linear process. And so just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. I think that the focus here and moving forward, it gives me a lot of hope for our ability to not just sustain that high result, but improve it, that 0.01% that we have to go, simply because it takes the system administrator role and allows the system to run on its own the way that it should. And instead of thinking about how we can scaffold and solve problems within the system of assignment, we move that sort of offshore to now we're handling the challenges of, we have a new job description, job function. How are we implementing that into our current system? And then on the other side, we have new courses, new requirements from regulatory bodies. That is now a new output. But the preservation of how things work is something that could be transitioned. And then the new focus of it, I think, and appropriately so, is ensuring not just that our delivery system is right, but we're delivering what we need to. So there's a larger view of oversight for an accreditation that may need to happen that pops up from JCO or a regulatory body. So it gives us the opportunity to be a little more vigilant about what's coming into our system as opposed to scaffolding internally to solve problems.
Excellent. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
So good. So I particularly like that also for the preventative nature of that project. It was before there's a problem. First saw in the future what could have been a disastrous issue, and that by thinking through it as a system, then we're not blaming it on a person if that failed, right? We're looking at it, well, the system wasn't prepared for a catastrophic event or someone leaving, and you looked out in the future and helped prevent that. So thank you on behalf of all of us who use HealthStream. So thank you very much. Okay, so finally, I'd like to introduce our Chief Quality Officer, Dr. Paul Maggio. He'd like to say a few words. Let's give him a round of applause. Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. By the way, it's great to be here. Just to get to say a few words, but also recognize all your accomplishments. It's also great to see a lot of members from the quality team here today. So both presentations are excellent. Great that we're referencing the quality retreat we had yesterday. And Belva, all the work you're doing, as you know, came up in the retreat yesterday, is being applied to pretty much everything we do applying that. And so grateful for all of that. And I'm going to call out Ben Elkins back there, who I haven't seen in years. So it really is a pleasure to be here today to actually get to see Ben in person. I did just want to make a few comments. The first is, I recognize that everybody coming into this course has a background already in improvement. So I think the fact that you were continuing on with this training really is in many ways a testament, speaks volumes to your commitment. I also want to recognize, again, I know from many on my team, it's a tremendous amount of effort, right, and time in terms of the investment. And I know we have lots of competing priorities. So again, a testament to your dedication. Now, I do hope you all recognize the value, because I think of the value in terms of what you bring to your teams, the department, to the organization, certainly there. But I also I hope you recognize the value for yourselves, because I think courses like this tends to shape your perspectives, your leadership, your ability to influence change in the organization in ways that, again, you can't anticipate going forward. So I think it is a big value for all of you. Now, I did want to take a moment just to tell you a little bit about myself, because I think there's some things that it's important for me to reflect on, and I think I could share with you. I first started doing, I would say, really focusing on improvement work when I was at, back to Terry's point, University of Michigan. So I was there for surgery. And while there, I also went to business school. Now, if you think about the University of Michigan, where it is, there the big focus was on logistics, a lot of lean work that was going on, because remember, the big three are there, the automobile industry. So that was really a big focus of my training at the time. And while doing that, I started working in the hospital. We started looking at flow. So looking at flow through the ORs, how do we smooth variability and so on. So that's how I started. I then came to Stanford and I worked with, does anybody remember, Lisa, you do, Nancy Lee, our chief nursing officer at the time, looking at some of those flows. And also started working in the ICU, doing quality improvement work at that time. That led to several other things. I started working with Topher Sharp, whom many of you know. I was a medical director of informatics, got to leverage things like clinical decision support in driving improvements. And then maybe Ben would remember this. There was an opportunity, Brian Bowman actually had a few of us go to UT Southwestern, take a similar course. So this was pre-CELT. We didn't have these courses here at that time. A couple of us went down, did something like this. In fact, while there, I was focused on addressing a variability for supply chain and in the ORs. So two things, in terms of these projects surfaced because of that. The first was something called value-based selection, VBS, still going on today. And then CSRP, cost savings reinvestment program, still going on today. So that actually came from a program similar to this. I would then go on and do some teaching for the American College of Surgery on systems engineering. And then I became an examiner for Baldrige, for those that are familiar with Baldrige, looking at other organizations and how they do performance improvement. So the reason I tell you all this is not to share my journey really, but I think there's three things I would like to highlight. The first is you need to keep going, right? This is not a one-time endeavor. It's something you have to continue to apply. It's not just a skill set, it's a mindset. So I think that will benefit not just your teams, the organization, but yourselves. The second thing that I want to emphasize is that you need to engage others. So engage your teams, elevate your teams, because I think that is probably the biggest value of this course. It's not just your training, but it's the fact that we collectively build capability across the organization. And the last thing I think is so important is to stay connected. Now, Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Lisa, I do think we have networks here, right? We have ways of staying in touch because that is so valuable for all of you. So finally, the last thing I want to comment on is just to recognize Lisa, right? Selena, Ame, Ryan. Now, Lisa, I remember when we were just starting this course, right? So much gratitude for all that you did. I remember you surveying, asking questions about what were the gaps with the other training programs and how you brought this all together. And to look at where the program is today is really impressive. So just a lot of gratitude for all of you for supporting this course. And then I'll end it echoing what Terry had commented on, which is just with congratulations, and then how we all look forward to what you're able to do going forward. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
Okay. All right. Well, just because I think it's worth noting, I do want to acknowledge Lisa again. Lisa is retiring at the end of the year, so this is her last full cohort with us. She's still going to be around. We're still going to pull her through, and next year we'll invite her again to this. So you're not going to get away. She lives close enough. She'll be here. But I want to acknowledge Lisa. She's just been amazing. So